Hello, loves. Welcome back to the Unshakable Soul podcast. I'm your host here, Sophia with Masikat, and I'm here with a monologue today. After a hot minute being away from the microphone since I think May 2nd, I'm now here to offer you episode 92, which is going to be another juicy one that we can sink our teeth into. And it's all going to be around authenticity, around being seen for who you truly are, and releasing slowly this feeling of being misunderstood, of being different, but not in a good way, of self-isolation, and of low self-esteem. And coming back into the heart of your being, which is your own radiance, which is love, which is acceptance of who you are and who you're meant to be. So I want to offer us this conversation to allow ourselves to feel into the current energetics, actually, of what we're going through right now collectively. It is July 21st when I'm recording this, and we're just on the threshold of Leo season. And in the astrology, Leo is all about authenticity. It's about being seen. It's about shining. It's related to the sun. So I want to weave this into our conversation and allow us to explore together this overarching thematic of authenticity. And I'm going to break this down in a few sections so that it becomes a bit more digestible. And of course, if anything doesn't resonate, you can chuck it away and keep what resonates. So I first want to share a little bit of a personal story based on my own experience on this thematic, just so that also you remember that I'm just like you, and I've had my own fucking share of upheaval in my life, and a long-standing pattern for me has been the people pleaser, has been the trying to manage the emotional energy in the room. It's feeling deeply misunderstood, not really being able to fully express myself and my truth, afraid of disappointing others. So this resulted in me completely losing touch with my body, with my own intuition, choosing to stay up in my mind, think logically, overanalyze, overthink, overwhelmed with my thoughts, disconnect from my body, from my truth, from my heart. So I learned to armor up. I learned to be on edge. And I also learned to overgive, to overcompensate, to try and prove myself, to gain people's approval, both in my work, in my career, and in my home life, especially with my mom. My greatest teacher, my greatest gift, so that I can learn and integrate. So today's topic of authenticity actually really stems much deeper. It goes deep into self-worth, into honoring your body, your energy, your truth, and learning how to set boundaries in a way that keeps your heart open and that keeps you rooted in your values. And I want to share with you why this matters. Why this matters so much. Apart from all the conversations I've had over the past 6 years with beautiful men and women alike, as well as my own healing experience and journey. Why does it matter? I want to share here authenticity And I know this is a word that gets thrown around a lot, so I want to offer maybe a different perspective here. Because for a lot of people, maybe authenticity brings up for you self-expression. Right? Being more rah-rah, big jingles, bells, whistles. And I'm not saying it's not that. For some people, that's part of their initiation. But what I want to offer here is authenticity as self-love, self-respect, and a devotion to your truth. For me, experiencing my authentic self is going through my heart. It has to come through my heart. So it's not about rah-rah being out there, because that also can be seen as trying to prove myself. And I've been there. Trying to be in certain circles of friends or communities, conscious communities, putting on the types of clothing that I think will get me into that space, get the approval, get the recognition maybe. Say the things online, on social media, all the things. But I realized this is not authentic. There's a piece missing. Because I'm still looking out there for validation. It's about always coming back to my truth. And sometimes saying the things that can ruffle some feathers. But not for the sake of ruffling feathers. It's because you're coming from a place of self-honoring. Okay, so authenticity isn't about saying whatever you want, doing whatever you want in a reckless way, or becoming louder. It is your willingness to stay connected to yourself, even when other people or someone else misunderstands you. Okay? And oftentimes we look at authenticity as confidence, which it can very much be. But let us remember that there's the courage to be vulnerable that hides underneath. And that's the threshold many people are going to be walking through this Leo season. And any other time during their life when they are faced with a situation, do I self-abandon or do I honor my truth? That is the threshold we're talking about. Because oftentimes it will require a certain degree of vulnerability to be authentic. Okay? So authenticity means accepting that not everyone will approve of you, but that you approve of you. Dot at the end of this phrase. So, a little reflection, if you feel called to, you can write these down, or you just can sit with these. Who am I still trying to convince? Who am I performing for? Whose approval still feels like proof of my worth? So these are just contemplations to have with yourself, with a confidant, with your journal. You can take them out in your nature walk if you'd like. Super important though to really feel into your own truth. And now I want to share why it's so difficult to show up authentically in our lives. The way I've experienced it and the way I observe it, it's very simple. Because we are wired for belonging. Our nervous system evolved believing that any form of exclusion meant there's danger. Most often of death back in the day. Ostracized, away from the clan. Okay, so being liked once meant I survive. But now in the modern day society, most of us are not in that situation anymore. But we can understand now with compassion that naturally and biologically, when someone judges us or doesn't approve of something we said or did, or even if we just perceived the judgment, so a lot of times it's all perception, our body wants to repair the rupture. Our mind wants to repair the rupture. So, what do? We over-explain. We defend our position. We try and prove ourselves, sometimes through external achievements, material gain, status, beauty, beautifying ourselves. And I'm not saying this is wrong, but only we know the energy that's coming behind these actions. Is it fear of not being good enough? Or is it self-honoring, self-respect, self-love? We overfunction or we shrink, we dim, we silence. Because we don't want to disappoint. We don't want to be too loud. We don't want to be too much. So we become who we think they want us to be. So all our life is revolving around other people's perception of us and what we believe will gain their approval. The pat on the back, the okay, you can come in. Because for some reason, and I just explained the biological reason, being alone, authentic, or the illusion of being alone, but doing your own thing, carving your own path, shining your own light, being in your uniqueness and naturalness is dangerous. So we're slowly repatterning this. Both men and women, because we both have woundings, which are a little bit different, but the longing is the same. And I'll go a bit deeper here. So this is in general for women. Many women have been conditioned to be agreeable, the good girl, accommodating, sit nicely, don't say too much, emotionally responsible. They're basically bred to be the caregiver and the one that pops babies out. So they learn that their desirability is very much based on their fertility and their looks, their baby-making capacity. They're also seen as the peacekeepers, the ones that are calm and soothing. Right? And that's one aspect of feminine, but we forget that the feminine has so many other aspects, so much more wisdom and wildness that for a lot of women is left untapped. So we box the feminine in, and the feminine in a box is no bueno for anybody. Sooner or later, she will come out in full fury, and this is what we're seeing right now, quote unquote, the rise of the feminine. Okay, so women, if we speak to women in their feminine, if it's only coming from this one small little space that I just described, agreeable, accommodating, the good, the peacekeeper, basically the warm mother energy, we confuse her kindness with self-sacrifice, her love with overgiving, and her compassion with a lack of boundaries. And this leads to self-abandonment. And what do I mean about that? She has forgotten, many women have forgotten their multifaceted nature. And this creates deep separation with themselves, disconnection from their own power in their body, in their truth. A sapping away of their life force energy, which is their healing nectar, both for themselves and for their environment, for their family, for their community. So a lot of a woman's journey is reclaiming her energy, bringing her energy back, honoring her body, setting the boundaries where she needs to, and treating herself with the care that she deserves, just as she would treat somebody else with that same amount of care. Okay, and she's remembering along the way that she is not too much, that her authentic self-expression, when channeled and expressed healthily, is medicine, is healing. And her worth is innate. She doesn't have to prove it to anybody. But for a lot of women, they need to learn how to lean back, how to trust their own selves, how to feel that sense of stability and strength within them, and to learn how to ask for support, for help, to connect with her guides. For men, they've also inherited impossible expectations. So we're bringing our men here because I've had beautiful conversations with men, and I love conversing with them and listening to their stories and their own pain points. They've been bred to appear strong, the working horse, always certain, capable, consistent, not show any vulnerability. So if the woman has been disconnected from her masculine energy and not felt safe to actually say no, exercise her boundaries, honoring herself, for men, a lot of the times, they've been disconnected from their feminine, from their sensitivity, from their heart, from their emotions. So when they feel misunderstood or disrespected, they often try and protect themselves a little bit differently. They withdraw. The men tend to withdraw. The woman tends to want to lean forward and try and connect and grasp. Thus goes that anxious attachment dance. They withdraw, they defend, they try and perform and focus on external achievement and success instead of connection, instead of the truth in their heart that they too are asking for love, for softness, for compassion, for acceptance. So there's different strategies for both, but the same wounding, the same longing. We all want to belong, to be loved and accepted just as we are. And of course, there are some women that are highly in their masculine energy, and they have to learn how to practice being in their feminine. And same for men that are highly in their feminine energy and have to learn how to take the lead and be a bit more directive and be more in their masculine. But for both men and women, the underlying practice is, can I be present with what is going through me right now? Presence and self-awareness is the foundational practice for everyone. If I'm not present, if I'm not able to be present, if I'm not willing to be present right now and actually feel what is coming up within me without reacting, just being here long enough to allow it to settle so that I can actually see clearly where this is coming from, then the separation will continue, the misunderstandings will continue, we'll continue reacting from a place of wounding. Okay. And now I want to invite in the trap that a lot of us get caught into, both men and women. and this is not news to your ears, probably, projections. The truth is that people do not see us objectively oftentimes. They see us through their own lens, and their own lens is tinted by their history, by their beliefs, by their stories, by their own wounds, their fears, their unmet needs. So sometimes, no matter how much you do or how much you offer in terms of love, attention, presence, someone has already decided to some degree who you are. And your endless explaining only feeds into maybe the exhaustion that you feel right now. And this is a hard lesson to realize, that you cannot change somebody's perspective of you. You cannot change someone's perception of you. You can't force them to take off their glasses and you put on yours. That's not your work. Your work is staying rooted in your integrity, staying honest, truthful, and in your heart, respectful. Every moment you chase someone's approval, remember, you're placing your worth into their hands. And that leads to a lot of pain. So, the reframe here on offer is, instead of asking, how do I make them understand me? I just want them to understand me. We can ask, what would it look like to love myself so deeply that I don't need to convince anybody of anything? And this is where energy medicine comes in, and just the work that you do in yourself, the inner alchemy. When you've entered your heart, you're in full acceptance of who you are. You love yourself. And you're able to house this compassion that you cannot feel if you are projecting or trying or pleasing or performing. Because inevitably you're going to be judging yourself, criticizing yourself, and trying again, just overwork, overdo, overperform to gain this approval and validation. When all of that ceases, there's this peace that enters your being before the environment is touched by this new energy you've entered into. But that's the work. That's up to you to cultivate that. That's the threshold. The more you honor your energy, your boundaries, the more you accept yourself, your uniqueness, the fact that you're actually not a black sheep, you're a beautiful multicolored sheep, and there's a lot of multicolored sheep out there. And to stop ostracizing yourself, to stop diminishing yourself, and allow yourself slowly to show up in your life authentically. That's when you're able to meet the world differently. That's when you start seeing and feeling the energy in your family environment, in your work environment, in your community start shifting. When you yourself, your inner state of being shifts. Because there's no more approval, there's no more performance. There's a stripping away, a simplification that happens. And yes, you allow people to have their own emotional experience without having to interfere or fix them. There's no more savior complex. There's no more victimization. Because you're becoming the creator of your reality. And you're choosing to create from a place of truth, from a place of wholeness. And yes, your standards will raise. And that's cool. So, I want to offer, just before we go into 3 embodied practices, again, a little bit about the energy of the season as we're entering tomorrow, Leo season, July 22nd. This is medicine for us. Leo is, in its shadow expression and often misunderstood as self-centeredness, arrogance, maybe even narcissism. When actually, in its divine expression, Leo brings out the archetype of the sun, of confidence, of courage to be seen, the courage to be uniquely you, to fly your weird flag. And again, this doesn't need to be loud and like, look at me, I'm all weird and here I am. Again, for some people that may be the initiation, they need to go to that degree, but oftentimes it's very subtle. Again, because all the work is internal, it stems from this, I'm accepting who I am, and I can simply show up as I am right now. Whatever that authentic self is right now. And maybe that means I'm spending a bit more time sipping my coffee instead of rushing to the next thing. Maybe I'm saying no to that outing because I actually really don't vibe with those people. Right? Maybe it's actually choosing to eat a salad when your whole family always eats burgers all the time. Right? There's so little things that we can start playing with. Slowly building that trust within ourselves that it's actually safe to be me. Yeah. Just like, I love this analogy, the sun doesn't negotiate to shine, doesn't need to prove itself, it just shines. And we all benefit from it. Flowers, the trees, the people, they love the sun. It just simply shines. The same thing for us. This season, we could see it as the peak in the northern hemisphere when the sun is the shinest, the brightest Leo season in the year. This is really when we get to practice this being seen in whatever capacity feels, I was going to say comfortable, but feels like you're on your threshold, you're on your edge, and you're like, this is maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but it feels really good to start tapping into this part of me that maybe has been shamed and dimmed for a long time. Okay, so here are a few more just like contemplations on Leo season. This season really asks you, can you be seen without performing? Can you lead with your heart without abandoning yourself? Can you stay generous without becoming depleted? Can you be misunderstood and remain rooted? Okay. So authenticity, again, is less about becoming bigger and louder. It's more about becoming truer. And sometimes that expression can look flamboyant or more extroverted, but remember it could also be quite subtle and simply come back to a choice and the way you move differently. the way you speak differently, both to yourself and to others. Okay. So I want to offer us 3 embodied practices that you can integrate any time during your day. The first step is noticing when you're reaching. When somebody doesn't approve of you, when you feel you're losing connection, when you feel judged, pause. Ground yourself. You can place a hand on your heart. A touch is always beautiful. Just inviting this reconnection, and ask yourself, what am I reaching for right now? And notice somatically where your body is leaning forward. Where is that reaching coming from? Where is that energy churning and stirring? And simply notice, just without interrupting the pattern, just notice and allow it to shift with your own presence and loving awareness. Okay, presence and loving awareness, number 1. Number 2 is calling your energy back. Okay, so a lot of the time when we're searching for approval, we're looking out there. Energy goes out there. So here we can invite a little imagery. Like if you were gathering every strand of energy you've been sending towards proving yourself. You can visualize maybe the people that you're trying to gain the approval or applause from. Oftentimes it's people closest to us, like our parents, or maybe even our children, or our friends, or our boss. And we can see these threads returning to us. So imagine that energy thread coming back, so slowly cutting away that energy from those people and seeing it return. And maybe you're noticing where it's returning to. Is it returning to that place that felt kind of knotted and constricted? Is it the heart space, the womb, the throat? Is it the brain, the mind? Maybe it's a bit everywhere. And you're just allowing it to naturally come back to you. Not forcing it, just gently bring it back. And number 3 is drawing your line. So you can ask yourself here, what boundary would someone who deeply respects themselves make here? So maybe you have a situation in a scenario that came up for you. And you can do these 3 practices with a specific scenario or in more general terms. Maybe there's a boundary that's being asked to be made. Okay, and boundary not as punishment, but as clarity of your truth. Your boundary is self-honoring, it's self-respect, it's an act of self-love. And sometimes love is saying yes to that thing that kind of scares you, but that puts you on your edge and you know is a deep calling. And sometimes it means saying no, because that thing doesn't make you feel good. And both can come from an open heart. And again, whatever response you get on the other end is not yours to fix or deal with. Your only job is focusing on your internal experience and staying true in that. All right, loves. So offering just a little final reflection, a final closing for this episode. Just a reminder that you don't need everybody to understand you. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to earn your belonging. The people that are meant to walk beside you will not require you to abandon yourself to stay connected. Right? You can keep your heart open. You can have clear boundaries. You can choose yourself. And that's the practice. The more you choose yourself, the more self-respect and self-love you feel. The more you're able to extend that to others. And that's, for me anyways, how we slowly start to heal a nation, a family unit, a community. However big you want to cast your healing aura, at first you have to be able to honor your own authenticity, your own truth. Okay? And every time you stop reaching for people's approval, you stop trying to perform to be seen as worthy or whatever, you slowly start bringing back home all the pieces of you that felt ostracized and felt as though they needed somebody else to feel good enough, or they needed some sort of external validation to feel good enough. You're worthy just as you are, just for existing. Let's take a deep breath together. So, if any of this conversation resonated with you, it's maybe because a part of you is longing for a different way of living, of showing up in life. Maybe one rooted in more presence rather than performance, in belonging rather than proving yourself all the time. And this is really why I created the Hearth. So the Hearth is my online community of women for women who are learning to come home to themselves. And together we're exploring embodiment practices, seasonal rhythms, honest conversations, and offering ourselves the kind of support that remind us that we don't have to carry everything alone. And we don't have to carry other people's shit. Okay? So we're coming back to a more authentic and embodied way of living and leading. So if you're looking for a space where you can soften back into this way of being that feels good from the inside out, and to continue this type of work in community, then I'd love to welcome you here. The link will be in the show notes, and there is the Founding Summer season right now. We just had our first call July 16th, and the two other ones will be August 13th, and the last one September 10th. And after that, it will become a paid online space. Thank you so much for being here, for engaging, for your presence, and I wish you the best.